Joseph, I'm curious, maybe how far we are from an environment where number one, let's say I have virtual PLCs running on the server. I have a cloud environment that I can use, the cheapest laptop possible to just remote in and run my IDE in whatever vendor agnostic tool that I can then push code to any, like PLC from that, and ultimately be able to connect to the entire facility and pull that data back and forth through like version control as well. Like like how long do you think that will take? Because I think that's definitely maybe the utopian vision, but I think it will take us some years to first, like the first step maybe is to get version control out, right? Like I think that needs to be solved. Number two, we definitely need to be able to remote into a site and not have those problems, like I said, with very bulky like engineering laptops all the time. Then there's the question, of being more vendor agnostic, right? Like being able to kind of pick and choose what your facility is running and not necessarily be stuck like on purely that environment and having the flexibility. But I think it will take time, right? So I'm curious to see like what in your kind of vision happens over the years for us to get there.
So first of all, the PLC, as I said, for a couple of application and also the whole safety thing will stay for a couple of years. This is something that we see.
Okay.
This is just also, by the way, work with the auditors, with the certification bodies to get this through to virtualize it. There's people like Codesys, for example, working on this, and I think they're really, really forerunners on that. The second thing is what you just described is possible with our system right now. The only caveat is currently we only have that's actually very big. So you have codices. But as you know, the
Mm.
automation systems are not standardized. But you can run virtual PCs on codices and the automation engineers can take a lab next to the factory. So it's not running in the cloud. That's super important. We believe a virtual PC should be at a factory and it should be on a server next to the factory. You can take your whatever cheap laptop to program it and you can push down and you do not need to go to the facility, or if you wish, obviously you can do. Yeah. And we also put access management on top of it. So get away from, we have a customer that says, okay, I have around 15 people that have the VPN credentials to my site. And then we say, what? And you asked us if our UI runs in the cloud. You get away with this because you get to proper user role right systems there. That's possible. What needs to happen to make this more available is that more vendors need to provide soft PLCs that run on x86 hardware. We've seen this. Siemens at Hannover Messe announced it with the S7 virtual control. I guess in a couple of months it's there. And for us, that's good because we provide our user more variety. Like which controller do you want to deploy? Yeah. But what cannot happen as an automation engineer would not be getting a hypervisor optimization and network specialist to be able to run a virtual PLC. This is what companies like ours do. We take away all that pain and make it very, very simple. So what I see, to answer your question specifically, I think what the management is there, remote control is there, version management is there. We need to make it much simpler and accessible, and then gradually help people to really version control as a modern software developer would do it. Virtualization is there. Technically, we've done a lot of tests, so we don't claim any real time. We just show the test data, and we are consistently below 5 milliseconds over weeks and months. Vendors would need to provide more virtualized runtimes that can run there. And there is a lot of movement. We are working with a bunch of vendors. I cannot be too public here. I hope that's understandable. Just follow us over the next months. And then there is one thing, and if you allow me, we still have a problem in how we build systems because the PCs got more and more powerful. That means we put more and more stuff in. We have customers that have gigabyte large, like 4 gig tier portal files. No one in the cloud builds such a system. In the cloud, you have microservices. And what an optimal system would look like, and this is, I'm 100% sure that this will happen, is you would have real-time microservices on the edge, like a no PLC automation. where they say, okay, this is a microservice, I program it in, let's say, Rust or Go. Would be very tempting, but there's some technical challenges in a modern programming language. And the only thing I do to say, because you are a robot program, and the KUKA robot, for example, needs a 4 millisecond heartbeat. You have a cycle time of 4 milliseconds, and the system takes care of the rest. And we build a system that takes care of the rest. A bunch of things need to happen, but then you have a couple of things that need to happen. First of all, we need more programmers that program in structured languages. And it's a matter of fact that PLC programmers currently laugh for good reasons, because they've been really proven. They've basically this low code, structured text, function blocks, sequence diagram, and so on. But more people coming in that anyhow know Python, know C#, know that. And then we need to think automation differently. Do we really need a very expensive PLC for every single task? Or should we make smaller PLC microservices that then can be deployed on comparably cheap and abundant and reliable and physically mirrored hardware? Because if a PLC costs like 8K, you don't want a second one. But if a server that has 40 cores on it costs 2K, not a problem to kind of have real hardware redundancy at very lower cost. Still, I would also see that it will differentiate. There's customers, especially in the EV and battery space, that they need just to kind of make factories like baking pretzels that don't have the time. They are much more open to this. I think larger parts of the industry, once they see this will work, will then quickly follow. But still, we are just ahead of this very interesting movement that will impact a lot of us also in our personal life.